Good morning, Stampers. I'm Meg from LovenStamps, and this is another Maker Mornings with Meg tutorial. So I had a brain fart there for a second. Anyway, today we are going to talk about color. We are going to talk about layering color on your stamps, and we are going to talk about one of my favorite ways to use the blending brushes that came out with the catalog, the January through June catalog that started in January. So you guys are ready to stamp, right? Tanya and Sue, Kathy, Trish, glad you guys are here. So let's see. In terms of stamp sets today, we're going to use the Hydrangea Haven stamp set, which includes this really beautiful hydrangea image. And there's a couple different ways you can use this, but we are going to use it not stamped flat, but stamped with extra shading included. And I'm going to teach you how to do that with your blending brushes. And I'm going to show you the difference between the blended version and the flat version. The flat version is beautiful. Nothing wrong with that. I have some cards to show you here, and I'll show you a couple more at the end. But here is one example of the Hydrangea stamped flat. So it's stamped here with the basic black or Memento black outline, and then the Rococo Rose is on the blossom, and I think it must be Mossy Meadow is on the leaves. This is one of the cards that I've made, and it's really pretty this way. It's a gorgeous image. The detail on it is really makes the blossoms stand out, but we're gonna do better today, and I'm gonna teach you how to do that. There's also a die version of this image. So this might look familiar because I think it's part of a Maker Mornings with Meg project that we did, but you can see the die cut on there and how the die complements the stamps too. So we're gonna kind of go over that a little bit. And yeah, you guys ready to kind of get stamping? So I'm gonna flip you down here, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about the ink pads that we're starting with. What ribbon was on the card? Sue asked about the ribbon. This ribbon, actually I'm gonna use this ribbon again today. Oh, and I forgot to put it in the links. If I get a chance to go back, I'll update that, but in the description for this video is the link to the supplies I've used, and that ribbon sadly got left off. But it is the petal pink ribbon from the annual catalog. Very, very pretty, actually. It's kind of been a staple for me. I think it was in last year's catalog too. So, all right. So let's get going down here with some ink. And let's see, I'll get you a little, there we go. All right, so ink pads that we're using for this card. So I told you that when I did the original stamping, I used it kind of flat. Here well, that's not a good example. I'll show you what that looks like. So what I'm gonna do is start kind of with the middle tones of each of these. So I have Rococo Rose and Cherry Cobbler, and we'll set aside the petal pink and the soft seafoam for a little bit later. And I'm going to ink dangerously. I'm going to clean my stamp first because I have some extra ink on here. So love my chamois. All right, so I'm gonna start off with Rococo Rose, and I'm gonna ink it this direction. Now, when you're inking flat like this, notice that there are 3 sides of the pad with a big plastic opening, so it's kind of hard to tell how close you are to the edge, and one where it's really close. So I'm gonna always use that edge when I'm trying to do like a fine line kind of thing, so that I get a nice little extra bit of control. So again, that narrow edge, and ink that up there. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and stamp. So we've inked this in 2 colors, and we're gonna stamp there. So a really, really pretty image. Actually, it's dainty. The way the line weight and so forth is done is just very dainty effect. And then I'm gonna take I'm using Old Olive this time, and stamp my Old Olive leaves over it, and then take that hydrangea flower bloom background and ink that up in Rococo Rose and stamp it here over the top, okay? All right, so here we have sort of our basic stamped image. It's really very pretty. But let's go on to the next level, because what I want to do is sort of mimic this designer series paper. This is from the Hydrangea Hill designer series paper, which comes in a whole bunch of patterns. The fronts are very floral. The backs are sort of those contrasting, more solidish patterns. And this is actually one of the back, oh, no, I guess it's a front pattern. Anyway, it is got a lot of variation in the color. So this is where my colors came from for the 3 that we're gonna be using. But I'm gonna start off kind of the same here and ink up my top of my flower here in Rococo Rose and the bottom of my flower here, the leaves, in Old Olive. And then I'm gonna come in with Cherry Cobbler, which is a nice, just slightly darker version of the Rococo Rose, and I'm going to open my Mossy Meadow, and I'm going to add a little bit of extra shading. So blender brush, usually I've used these on backgrounds for things. I have to grab some samples, but today I'm going to wipe my ink onto my brush, just so a wipe, and then I'm going to tap around the edge of my stamp. So wipe and tap, wipe and tap. Okay. Now, we're gonna go ahead and stamp this here, and there we go. Okay. And you can see that there's just a little bit of color variation, but not a lot. So the place where we're going to get the most color variation is by coming back and lightening up the background so that we can have so we're kind of gonna turn the volume down on the color so that we can turn the volume up for contrast. So I'm gonna come back, whoops, with my darker or my lighter colors. So I'm gonna clean off my stamps so that we make sure we're not making a mess with that. And this time I'm gonna go with Soft Seafoam, which is 1 shade lighter. So I'm gonna move it here. So we have Soft Seafoam, Old Olive, and Mossy Meadow. I'm gonna ink up my stamp so that I have the whole thing covered. And then I'm gonna take my blending brush and I'm gonna skip to the darkest, and I'm going to add some color just along the edges here, just a little tapping of my leaves. And you might even be able to, here, can you see that even on the stamp? You can see how much variation there is to that color. So now when I stamp this, and I'm gonna pop this under here so I get a good image. When you're using photopolymer, you usually want to grab your Stampin' Pierce mat so that you get a nice firm contact. Stamp that. All right, and already you can see how much variation there is in the leaves there, right? So now we're gonna go back and do the same with our flower topper. And I'm going to ink this in Petal Pink, which is the lightest of our spectrum here. And I'm going to come back with my red and add just a little Rococo Rose kind of on a side here. But then I'm going to do my Cherry Cobbler. I can't remember, I might have said Mary Merlot, it's actually Cherry Cobbler. And we'll do a little at the top and a little at the bottom. Now, when you first put this on here, can you see how you can actually see the line here in the ink where I've added that darker color? So what I'm gonna do is just tap a little bit over that, and it's going to blend that back in. Can you see how there's no more line? It's just a nice sort of blended space. So morning guys, Carol and Beth and Kathy. I'm glad you guys are here. So if you're just joining us now, we are working on making a version of the hydrangea that's not flat, that's got a lot more dimension to it and color variation. So I'm gonna go ahead and stamp this here on our project. And now, can you see the difference between those two flowers? So by adding the blending brush background, we gave ourselves a lot more variation in the color. So we went lighter and we added some shading. So when I bring this paper in, you can see which one of these really matches better with this designer series paper. This one's pretty, it's got the same color tone in it, but this one here with the blending brushes is really outstanding as far as pulling those two together. Okay, so let's work on our card now. I'm gonna set this one aside. And since Tanya's watching, I'll close some, I'm not gonna close them. I'm just moving to the side, but you can't see them, Tanya, so. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and cut this with my mini here. And let's see, I need some plates, which I just set aside. And I'm gonna pop my paper on here and use the washi tape that I always keep handy to attach the paper and die together. Okay, so I'm just gonna run that across there. And then I need this little greeting die here, so I'm gonna add that right on the corner and go ahead and run this through. All right, so you run this through. I've heard some people say that they have trouble starting the plates when they go through the mini Stampin' Emboss machine. But one tip that I can share about that is I never line up my plates perfectly. They're always offset by, you know, a centimeter or half an inch or something like that. And that really helps me to get them started easily. So if you're running into that, I hope that tip might help you. All right, now I'm going to pop these off of here. And we have our very pretty die cut flower there that coordinates beautifully with our designer series paper, because we've kind of done our level up here on our piece. And this actually is from the die set. The die set for Hydrangea Haven, which is actually called Hydrangea Dies, includes a lot of different pieces, including like this detailed line here and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and set that aside so I don't lose track of it. This is cut to 3 by 3 inches. I want to make a focal point here, and 3 by 3 is great, but I want to extend our focal point to include our greeting. So I've decided to take a piece of cardstock here that's 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 so that I can have those two kind of work together. And let's see. Grab some adhesive here. I'm going to pop this on here. And I used sort of that dark color again. So Rococo Rose for my cardstock background. And then the lighter version the darker version is the Cherry Cobbler. So I'll grab some Stampin' Dimensionals and pop this up. Always good to add some extra layering dimension to your projects. Okay, so this is gonna go centered on here. And then I'm going to add our flower here. So you can see kind of how nicely that contrasts with the pieces. And here's a kind of thing. So when I stick it flat, it does get lost just a little bit because it doesn't have that white edge around it. But when I layer it up on dimensionals, that shadow really makes a difference in helping it pop. So let's pop a couple dimensionals under there. All right, and going to stick this back on here. All right, there we go. And then we need to add our greeting. Now, I really needed a birthday card. So the greetings in Hydrangea Haven are wonderful, but they don't necessarily include anything that's super birthday specific. With love, I guess. You're capable of amazing things. I do love these greetings, but they're not quite what I was looking for. So I decided that I'd go with a non-specific from Best Year, just hello, because it fits nicely on this little die here that's included in Hydrangea. I love it when you get cute, pretty shaped dies included with your shapes or your flower die stamp set. So. Or label dies including with your shape dies. That's what I was trying to say. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this up here in my Cherry Cobbler, and I'm going to show you a trick. So with the rubber mount stamp sets, there are a number of ways that you can practice on getting them straight and so forth. But what I'm going to do is actually use my grid paper as a guide so that I can figure out how I expect this to stamp. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp it here. Kind of lined up straight, and then look, and yep, that actually stamped kind of exactly where I expected it to. So then when I transfer that to my actual paper, well, that's lower than I expected, then it comes out pretty predictably. So let's see, there we go. All right, so we have our hello, and this is gonna come across here. But I would like to, I'm gonna sort of offset it there so we have a balance. I would like to add an extra element to this. I really want to have kind of a more horizontal element right there. So I'm gonna come back with this little piece of designer series paper and slide it up underneath here, okay? Oh, I put a dimensional there, so. Okay, I'm gonna peel this dimensional up a teeny bit so we can get underneath it. So this piece of coordinating designer series paper is going to go here, and it's going to extend our line so that it goes out past the rectangle, so that it kind of has a little bit more movement element incorporated in our card, so it's not quite so static. So, all right, so that's going to come across here. Let's go ahead and pop that down. I think I'm going to use my multi-purpose liquid adhesive because I'm sliding that up under, and so when the if I use the seal, it'll grab as soon as it touches. So this one will give me a chance to slide it a teeny bit. So obviously you don't want to smear glue across there, so I'm not doing a ton of contact. But there we have a little, just a little extra element that helps to decorate that part of our card. And then I am going to come back with our greeting. Now, I really want to incorporate like some ribbon or some things like that on here. So I have this ribbon that we kind of showed at the beginning when I showed those other card samples. I have some more hydrangea cards to show you. But this petal pink ribbon is really pretty, and it really helps to bring out. So look at the card here. I'll bring it up to you. Look at the card here. And then look at the card when I bring that petal pink ribbon across there. Do you see how it just really makes those petal pink highlights come out? It pops them out on the card. So there's without and there's with. That's one of the things I love about the Stampin' Up! Colors. It's so easy to come up with compliments that really make the most of our elements and really show off the colors and the coordination. So, all right, so I'm gonna bring this, I think, across here like this, and then pop my, let's see, greeting on the ribbon, greeting below the ribbon, greeting there above the ribbon, kind of at the intersection. Oh, I kind of like that. All right, and I'm going to trim our ribbon here with my paper snips and pop this underneath here again. Now with ribbon like this that's so sheer, you wanna kind of think out your strategy of how you're going to attach it. So what I might do is sort of cheat a little and use a Stampin' Dimensional. And so I'm going to put the adhesive underneath this long piece here. And so I'm gonna take a long Stampin' Dimensional. I always save the edge pieces of my cards, of my dimensional backings here. And then I'm going to slide this kind of here so that it's attaching the ribbon right there where our greeting is gonna hide it. So now the ribbon is on there. It's not going anywhere. Our adhesive is hidden, and I can put my greeting on. Okay, just like that. So we kind of mixed and matched and added some layers there with the ribbon. And then we need, I think, another embellishment. I mean, why not, right? This is a fun card. So I was trying to decide between the, I had these handy. These are the, where's the backing paper for these? The Artistry Blooms adhesive backed sequins. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but when the sequins come on an adhesive backing, I'm like kind of gaga, because then I don't have to glue them at all. They just stick. So I had these out for another project that's a sneak peek that I'm going to show you too. And I thought, oh, those are kind of pretty. So I could use these if I wanted to have sort of an up bling kind of card. But then I thought, I don't know, the Hydrangea Blossom isn't really an up bling kind of image to me, at least in this version. It's kind of soft and a little bit dainty. So I pulled out the Opal Rounds, which are, there, you can't really see them. Here we go. They're actually little like resin rounds with a little bit of like crinkly foil in them. They're iridescent. So I decided to pull these out because I think that they're a little bit better complement to our card here. And I'm going to pop a couple of these onto our background. So they're going to be subtle because they don't like scream. They don't scream out to be noticed. They're just a little bit more subdued, and hopefully they're not so subdued you can't see them in the video. Anyway, they go, I think, really well with the daintiness of this Hydrangea stamp set. So that kind of gives us our base there. And then I didn't cut a piece of cardstock to go in the center, but of course you would want to cut, put a Whisper White layer and stamp something on the inside. And there are lots of great images here. This one actually is particularly wonderful for using inside cards. It's got just that little spray of flowers there. Now you can take this and you can layer it. It actually has a die that cuts it out, and you can layer it on top of the blossom to make some layered, like hydrangeas are round, right? So you can have layered blooms, but it also makes a great inside project or inside complement stamp that you can use. So, okay, so you ready to see some other hydrangea cards? I have a handful of them here. Let's see, this one is one that I made, I can't remember for what, but it is a basic kind of card shape here, but it has a little surprise inside because it has a little flap. So to do that was really easy. Just instead of scoring by card base in half, I scored it over about an inch and a whatever that is, inch and a quarter, I guess, so that there was a little flap at the end, and then I folded that under and then kept everything else layered the same. So there's another hydrangea card. This is another one that I did. You'll notice this same repeated element of the stitched, I think it's Stitched So Sweetly dies. Stitched, let me find those. I love these shapes, this stitched shape here. I can't find it. Anyway, I love this stitch shape. It has these rectangles in it. I swear it's stitched, I think it's Stitched So Sweetly. Anyway, and the folder in the background here with the sort of gesso looking print on it. So that's from the January through June catalog. Here's one, a DSP card base that makes the most of that long DSP print. And then this reminds me to tell you about the metallic acetate. So pretty with that sort of cool speckled pattern. So it adds a lot of extra texture to things. Here's the one that I showed you at the beginning with that ribbon that we used on our card. And you can see how the ribbon, again, brings out the highlights in that designer series paper. And then I repeated that petal pink here again with the cardstock. And then here's another one that I showed you with that same background paper. So here's kind of 3 different versions with that same background paper. And I love the hydrangea in all of them, but I love the one in the center the most. I'm super in love with the way you can use your blending brushes to make the most of those stamped images and have that color variation. So, all right, I'm back. Yeah, so I hope that you guys will look at your blending brushes and think about using them not only for blended backgrounds. I'm looking for my blended background sample cards here. Oh, here's one. The blended background like this on our chicken card. And actually this die set is back available for ordering. There was like a little glitch over the weekend when it was unorderable, but you can get it again now, so not to worry. And I'll be showing this faux buckle card coming up on a video very soon. So it actually is a trifold that seals itself shut very nicely. But the blending brushes are great for those blended backgrounds. But honestly, they are really shine also when you use them on your stamps. So this can give you some inspiration on making the most of those blending brushes. I've said before in videos, I didn't talk about it today, but I don't worry too much about the color on the blending brush. The ink doesn't really sink down inside the blending brush very much, at least the way I use them. I just do a quick wipe and then a swirl on my paper project or stamp. So the ink stays kind of at the surface, and it's really easy to wipe out on your project, which is where you want it, right? You don't want to waste a lot of ink filling a brush. So you can go back and forth between colors more readily than you might expect. Unlike a sponge dauber, which really sucks the ink in and holds it. They're a good tool too, but I find that the blending brushes really make the most of this kind of technique here with our blending. So, all right, so that is our Wednesday. I had to think about what day of the week it is. Tuesday, our Tuesday project. Sheesh. I don't want to move things along too fast. And oh, I promised to show you a sneak peek. So if you made it here to the end, the sneak peek is uses, actually, I'll show you my butterflies here. I use the same technique. The stamp set is going to be out in March. It's available now for demonstrators. So if you are a demonstrator, go ahead and make your pre-order for this fantastic stamp and die bundle. If you aren't a demonstrator, you could sign up and of course get this as part of your starter kit, which is really fun. But it's a sneak peek that will be in the new catalog that comes out in May. So the new annual catalog comes out in May, but it's also going to come out early as a customer sneak peek in March. So watch for this in early March. And here's the, without further ado, here's the stamp set. Butterfly Brilliance. It is brilliant. Well, the images are brilliant, but I'm going to actually show you why this set is so brilliant. And the reason is that it has a die that matches it. So total brilliance, because look at this, ta-da, it doesn't line up on the case, but it lines up with the stamp so that you can easily punch all of these butterflies at once, die cut all these butterflies at once. And here is my stack O butterflies. Can you guys see these? There we go. Lots and lots. And I use the same blending brush technique because I wanted to mimic this designer series paper that is also going to be available for a limited time. You see the designer series paper there on top? See how I use the same blending brush technique to make all my butterflies match the paper? Okay, I know it's not the ideal way to show them to you. There you go. But lots of great possibilities. And I love, love, love the way these colors came together. If you're wondering about them, they are Magenta Madness, Rococo Rose. Let's see, I'll bring this one back in here. Pretend it's not open. Just Jade and Mint Macaron. And yeah, so that Butterfly Brilliance will be coming in March, and you'll see a lot more Butterfly Brilliance projects from me when we hit March and it's available for ordering. So if you have questions about getting it in a demonstrator starter kit, then drop me a message or check out the Join My Team tab on the LovenStamps.com website. So, all right, guys, thanks for sticking with me and watching a Tuesday morning, very fun color video. And I look forward to sharing another project with you tomorrow. So happy stamping. Have a great day.